people who came to this celebration should expect a safe environment. We had over 800 law enforcement officers, Kansas City and other agencies, at the location to keep everyone safe. Because of bad actors, which were very few, this tragedy occurred, even in the presence of uniformed law enforcement officers, who again ran towards them and took them into custody.
Yeah, again, reiterating what you were just saying. The police chief there of Kansas City, Missouri, saying basically she's saddened by the fact that this had to rain on our parade, so to speak. Let's go back now to Scott Reese. He was also on the balcony there of Weston Crown Center, and is now on the ground there below. The scene has changed significantly in the last hour or so, right, Scott?
Extremely significantly, yes. Off to my left, the corner where an hour or so ago there were probably 30 official vehicles between police, fire, ambulance, and now, as you can see, it looks almost normal other than the yellow caution tape, which barricades the scene. And same story behind me at Union Station. If you walk by right now, didn't know any better, you would think this was just the aftermath of a parade and a rally, again, except for the yellow caution tape, which is strewn everywhere. Going back to what you guys were talking about, asking Neil if he heard multiple gunshots. Now, obviously, from our vantage point, we were up on the balcony at the Crown Plaza off to my left. We did not hear multiple gunshots either, but I did get word from one of the officers earlier today that there were multiple incidents and there was a suspect apprehended. We talked about it earlier inside the parking lot beneath the Crown Plaza Hotel. So perhaps not multiple gunshot locations, but certainly multiple incidents, and more on that will certainly come out in the coming days. But right now, the scene is, again, like you say, Carolyn, significantly different than it was a while back, and we'll continue to monitor. A couple of officers seen going in and out of the Union Station facility, but again, other than that, this looks a heck of a lot more quote-unquote normal than it was an hour ago, even though clearly nothing about today has been anything resembling normal.
Completely abnormal. Scott, I know at one point I was seeing that, caution tape being the police tape around a wide swath of Union Station. Are you seeing that now? Are people, is there anybody able to get in and out, or could you walk closer now, or is the area still blocked off?
We probably could. We came up here to get a different vantage point from what we had earlier, and I have not tried to go back down. It does not appear that there are officers securing the perimeter at this point. There are some closer to the doors right by. You can see one officer there. Looks like he's entering the facility right now. I'm not sure if our camera can get that far, that shot zoomed in. So there are definitely some police officers that are still wandering, but they are closer to the entrance exit to Union Station. And I cannot see any in the area where the fans were earlier today.
Okay, very interesting. Scott, thank you so much. I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah, appreciate it. Okay, right now we want to reset and explain what we know about what's happened today.
Yeah, we got reports of a shooting right as that Chiefs parade and the Chiefs rally, the pep rally, was wrapping up just shy of 2 o'clock. Now, this was a scene right next to the stage, to the west of the stage at Union Station, where the shots were allegedly fired. People began to run from the scene as police began to run to it to try to stop any potential shooters.
Yeah, police tell us they have taken 2 armed gunmen in custody. Sadly, one person has died. At least 14 others are hurt. They were taken to multiple local hospitals, including Children's Mercy. Now, we don't know how old the victims are. At a news conference, Chief Stacey Graves denounced the shooting.
I just have one thing to say. This is not Kansas City. I'm angered by what happened, but I want you to know that the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department and all the law enforcement officers that were there today, that were serving and protecting, did the best that they could, and I'm so proud of them that they ran into danger, getting 2 people into custody, and at the same time rendering life-sustaining aid to those victims. We were here for a safe celebration, and because of 2 bad actors or more, it is why we're standing here today. We will recover as a city my heart goes out to our victim who is deceased. But your police department stands ready, and we are invested in the safety and betterment of Kansas City.
You can hear the passion in her voice saying very clearly, this is not Kansas City. Kansas City is the victory city that we've seen in how many victory parades prior with no incidents. And here we have this to culminate this one. It is a sad, sad day for our city. It is.
I want to read this tweet. This is from Albert Breer. He's a reporter for the NFL Network. He wrote this. He said, the Chiefs left the parade in buses and in shock. Players were unbelievable in calming panicked kids down. Blaine Gabbert, Trey Smith, Austin Ryder, Chris Oladukan all rallied. He says Smith went to one upset kid, gave him the WWE title belt that we saw there on the parade route, and sat with him until he calmed down. So we haven't really heard how this affected Chiefs players and what they saw, and we'll hear from them in the coming hours and days, but that just gives us a little glimpse as to what think about it from their perspective.
Feel responsible.
This was their parade, and all of a sudden now there's tragedy and bloodshed, and so it's interesting to hear that perspective. All right, our Grace Smith is out, has been reporting all day long. Grace, what's the latest?
She's at Children's Mercy. Grace?
Yeah, I'm at Children's Mercy, and I am just learning that we are now up to 18 people who have been shot. 9 of those are considered children, and they are being treated here, but children could mean minors. Technically not children, young children like we're thinking, but still minors. That is just into our newsroom. 9 of those children that have been shot are being treated here, but again, they could be minors, so not necessarily young children, but still so tragic, and the number just keeps rising, it seems.
Okay, again, 9 children being treated at Children's Mercy. Again, we want to reiterate, sadly, that there has been 1 death coming from this right now. Numerous other victims as well at least 2 other hospitals that we know of. Grace, thank you so much for your reporting from there. And we are hearing at least 3 are in serious condition tonight.
It's stunning, to say the least. All right, the Kansas City Chiefs have released an official statement. I believe we have that we can take that. If not, I can just read it. There it is right there. It says, statement from the Kansas City Chiefs. We are truly saddened by the senseless act of violence that occurred outside of Union Station at the conclusion of today's parade and rally. Our hearts go out to the victims, their families, and all of Kansas City. We are in close communication with the mayor's office as well as the Kansas City Police Department. At this time, we have confirmed that all of our players, coaches, staff, and their families are safe and accounted for. We thank the local law enforcement officers and first responders who are on scene to assist. So that's the statement from the Kansas City Chiefs. We heard, or we saw earlier, a couple of hours ago, Patrick Mahomes tweeted out prayers for everyone involved. So you wonder how this is weighing on them, weighing on the families of those who are now in hospitals recovering. We don't know how seriously, but as Grace just mentioned, that number of the people who are hurt is now up to 18 with 1 dead. And did she say 3 in critical?
3 in critical condition, 9 of them children being treated for some sort of injuries, or at least minors being treated at Children's Mercy Hospital. A scary scene for anybody and a horrifying time for all of these families involved. This is far too severe to say again and again and again what Kansas City is going through today, unfortunately, after what was to be such a celebratory, exciting victory day in Kansas City. Just a sad turn of events, for sure.
We're about 10 minutes away now from another update from the mayor. And well, I'm actually not sure if the mayor is going to speak. I do know that the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department and Chief Stacey Graves are going to update the media with any updates that have happened since we last heard from them. But one of the things about this and what has happened is that there have been so many different scenes within the one scene. And it's really been a little hard to follow as far as, wait a minute, there was a shooting over here near Union Station, and now they're locking down a hotel over here.
And now we're hearing about potentially other shots fired
from other witnesses, a lot
further west.
There's so much to unpack and so chaotic, and that's what, and frankly, that's what Kansas City, Missouri police investigators are doing right now. Detectives are combing over all the information that they've gathered, all of the eyewitnesses that they've been speaking with, and it must be a lot of people that they're questioning and asking, and clearly right now they're interrogating the people that they arrested. So this investigation's still very, very, very early, but we hope to find out just a little bit more in about 9 minutes or so when we get another update from the police.
And we now know FBI, ATF also involved in this one, and we too, like the investigators are doing, are talking to eyewitnesses, trying to put these pieces together to this horrifying puzzle. So let's hear from them now.
I was trying to find my dad. We got separated, and all of a sudden I heard shooter, and everyone started trampling me, where I literally got walked over. And I was still trying to find my dad. I definitely got pushed. It got to a point where I don't even remember who helped me up. Everyone just treated me like I was just a body. I just got walked all over. It's just my leg. My leg's definitely hurting from, I'm only 90 pounds, so I have, people that are 150 just walking all over me. It's definitely very scary and it can hurt. I heard the pops and I heard everyone screaming shooter. And then, of course, like my dad definitely has a different story to it. For us, it's God. We definitely praise God for us being okay. We're from Destin, Florida, and that is about a 14-hour drive, and it definitely does frustrate us. I never understood how, because you always see it in the news, but you don't understand that it actually does happen, and it's sad. It's supposed to be a family event.
Again, just one of the many witnesses saying the same thing and reiterating the fact that I know Grace had said there were 9 children and minors being treated at Children's Mercy, many like her treated for injuries because they were stepped on or bumped or pushed aside or what have you, not necessarily shot in this, but we do know that several were indeed shot and again, one fatally.
Well, this is a tweet from KCTV5's Betsy Webster. These are updates from Betsy. She says, updates on Chiefs rally shooting victims from area hospitals. University Health, 8 gunshot victims, 3 of them critical. Children's Mercy, 9 gunshot victims, at least 8 of them kids. That's reporting from our Betsy Webster.
So the kids did have gunshot injuries is what she's hearing. Okay.
Oh, Children's Mercy, 9 gunshot victims, at least 8 of them kids. So your heart sinks when you hear something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the numbers keep rising. Sadly, when we first came to you here at 2 o'clock, we were hearing, a couple people hurt, and we thought it would end there. And these numbers keep rising.
Just keep rising.
It is devastating news to report to you. We're going to stay on the air with you here as we continue to kind of, like I said, put this horrifying puzzle together and find the different pieces that help us make some sense of it. What we were hearing initially, what we continue to hear, it seems, from many of these witnesses, that started as an argument between 2 people. Apparently, both of them had guns, as the police chief called them, 2 bad actors that made our victory play, if you will, a very tragic day.
Tragic indeed, no doubt about it. So we've had crews all over on the ground. We've been talking to so many people, talking to so many eyewitnesses, the mayor, the police chief, and everyone, you can just tell, trying to wrap their heads around this. I don't use the word shocking very often. I don't like that word because very few times are we literally shocked in this world. This is for those people who were there and for what this was planned and the joy and excitement that was going on. What a shocking development to have gunfire break out, and not just a shot or 2, but multiple shots.
In rapid fire.
In rapid fire that did end up hitting multiple people. 1 person has died. Their family will be planning a funeral. All of the first responders who were there, now unpacking what happened in the midst of trying to investigate what happened, and then trying to figure out how to go forward in that investigation. haven't even really got to the chiefs and their families and the dignitaries that were there, who they were mere yards away from where this happened. I mean, so much to unpack here, and none of it is fun. The parade was fun. The rally was fun. Everything afterwards has been utter chaos, and now it's turned to heartbreak and sorrow.
Yeah, puts a dark cloud over what was to be a fabulous victory for our city and for our favorite team. Let's hear now from some more eyewitnesses that we've been talking to throughout the now evening hours to get their perspective.
We were standing on a wall, like to the east side of Union Station, the front of it, and there towards the end of things, I heard something. I couldn't tell if it was fireworks or what, a bunch of pops in succession, and saw a lot of people running, but it was on the opposite side of things, so we couldn't really tell what was going on. And then as we were leaving, there was times that the crowd behind us was running, and we saw cops running back the other direction, but we couldn't really tell what was going on.
Yeah, we're hearing very similar stories from so many of these witnesses. The sound,
the confusion.
The confusion, and the utter terror that's just set in after this rally there at Union Station this afternoon. Makes you fear that if we have, victories to celebrate like this in this city, like we have gotten to do so many times, luckily, that this is going to have to change the way things are done. Do we have to limit the amount of celebrating we do in large masses like this?
Yeah, well, officials will be going over all safety protocols and what's happened in the past, and how do we defend against that, and how do you keep people safe, because that's ultimately what they're there for. They're there to keep the chiefs safe, and then they're there to keep the people in the crowd safe. And it had all gone great up until it didn't. Our Mark Palos is there on scene in front of Union Station. Mark?
It is certainly a somber scene out here.
Go ahead, Mark.
Hey guys, yeah, it is certainly a somber scene out here in front of Union Station. I'm going to quickly take a step out of frame so you can certainly see what it looks like right now. Now, right in front of us is a red flag. I was talking to a man who said he got here at 5 p.m. yesterday. He said he was the very first person here. He says everything was going normal until the end of the parade when things really started to go crazy. Now, our vantage point is right here in front of the Westin Crown Center, where a lot of people were staying for this event if they're coming from out of town. I spoke to a father who came here with his wife and kids from Wichita, and he described the absolute fear that hit his heart as he was here with his family, with young children, for a family event, for a Super Bowl parade, to celebrate a third Super Bowl title here in the last 5 years, and how he had to tell his kids to run and hide behind this Westin Crown Center sign so he would have some cover from a potential shooter. Just a lot of people out here are shocked that something like this happened on a day like this in Kansas City, where the sun is out, there's not a cloud in the sky. We're celebrating a championship here in our beloved city. I also saw a father here who was reunited with a young teenage son, both the older father and the son completely in tears due to the emotion of today. A lot of people down here just left wondering how this could happen, why this could happen. And a lot of people here also have a fear that the national perspective of Kansas City is certainly going to shift. This has been a time where we've really been patting ourselves on the back. It's been a banner year, 2023 in Kansas City, with the Chiefs, with all this other stuff. But here, the lasting memory a lot of people have told me that there will have of this parade is the shooting. I ask, are you going to remember the good, the bad, the good and the bad? And pretty much unequivocally, the answer we get is that they will remember the bad. Now, they do want people to know that this is not what Kansas City is all about, but this is certainly something that we are dealing with at the moment. I know a lot of people have said right now that this is not Kansas City, but we've also talked to some people today that have said that this is Kansas City, because we are coming off the deadliest year on record in Kansas City. So a lot of people saying, while this is something maybe unexpected, a lot of people are saying this is something maybe we should have expected here in Kansas City, considering the year that we have just come off of. But again, a very somber scene out here. A lot of people still wondering how this could happen in Kansas City. But we're going to continue to gather more here from the scene and talk to some people about what they witnessed today. But for now, reporting live outside of Union Station, Mark Palos, KCTV 5 News.
Mark, thank you so much. You see so much debris around there. You wonder how much of that is the normal after parade cleanup process, you know, and how much of it is just people dropping their stuff and running.
They dropped and ran, it sounds like.
Belongings are everywhere, it looks like.
A lot of equipment, baby strollers, all bags, all kinds of things. All right, it is 5 o'clock right now. We want to quickly kind of recap today's events, if we can. This day started so glorious. The Chiefs parade started. Our weather was great. It looked like we were about to have what was possibly maybe a record crowd. Everything was going fantastic. The Chiefs did their parade. They took the stage. They were celebrating. We love listening to Travis Kelce and Patrick. They were having a fantastic time. And so were all the fans, not only at the celebration, but the fans who were watching on KCTV 5.
Then is when we heard the shots fired, or at least that's what we're hearing. Shots fired just before 2 o'clock this afternoon. People began to run away from the scene as police began basically to run towards the sounds of that gunfire to try to stop these alleged shooter or shooters.
Yeah, police tell us that they have taken 2 armed gunmen in custody earlier today. Sadly, one person is dead. At least up to 15 to 18 are now. That number continues to fluctuate, but as many as 18 now. That might go up past the 14 that you see on your screen. They were taken to multiple hospitals, including Children's Mercy. We don't know the ages of the victims. At a news conference earlier today, Police Chief Stacey Graves denounced the shooting.
I just have one thing to say. This is not Kansas City. I'm angered by what happened, but I want you to know that the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department and all the law enforcement officers that were there today, that were serving and protecting, did the best that they could, and I'm so proud of them that they ran into danger, getting 2 people into custody, and at the same time rendering life-sustaining aid to those victims. We were here for a safe celebration, and because of 2 bad actors or more, it is why we're standing here today. We will recover as a city. My heart goes out to our victim who is deceased, but your police department stands ready, and we are invested in the safety and betterment of Kansas City.
Now, that was the police chief of Kansas City, Missouri, speaking at the very first press conference that they held after this happened. We're actually waiting now to hear from her once again with further updates, also hoping to hear from the mayor a little more shortly as well, if he is going to join her again. He just as heartbroken as she is, clearly, that this puts such a mark on our city. Patrick Mahomes, you were talking about him, just one of the many players posting on Twitter, on Facebook this afternoon. Patrick saying, praying for Kansas City with 3 prayers.
And as I kind of filter through social media posts and try to get a feel for what people are focusing on, it's now that we're finding out that there are so many kids involved. You can just tell on social media that it's kicking people in the gut right now. That of all the people, look, clearly, one person hurt is terrible. One person is dead, and several kids are in hospitals right now.
Shooting victims.
Shooting victims. We don't know their conditions. We hope for the best for these kids who are all probably wearing Chiefs gear, who went to the parade with their mom and dad, and here they are now.
We're just about to head home.
We're just about to head home, and what would have been a fabulously memorable day and a day they'll never forget. Well, now they'll never forget for another reason, sadly. All right, our crews have been out gathering, talking with people since this happened. Here's more of what we heard.
We were sitting at a table at the Crown Center bar, and the ladies in front of us all of a sudden turned around and started pointing. We turned around, and everybody out in that courtyard in front of the bar they were flying everywhere. And then people around us were diving to the ground, so we started running down a hallway, and there were a bunch of kids, and my sister and I were running, telling them, get down, get down. It was
scary.
Scary. I mean, just
scary.
this doesn't happen in Kansas City, you know?
Obviously, you guys were trying to look out for other people. Were there kids there, and kind of what was the reaction from the?
Well, there are lots of kids and their parents, and you just kind of, I don't know. I think you realize if you don't know what to do, you think you should be prepared all the time, and all of a sudden you realize you're just probably doing stupid stuff and just trying to just run. Just run. It's so stupid. The whole thing is so stupid because you just don't know what you should never have to prepare for this. I feel sorry for the people that were all outside. I mean, I feel like we made really good decisions to end up in the bar and not down in the crowd. But yeah.
Have they said everything? I can ask you a different question. Okay, so obviously this is supposed to be a parade, it's supposed to be everything, and this is kind of like worst case scenario. I mean, it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, it was really sad, and what was sad is, you know, we seen these kids that came in, and they came flying in, all these young kids came flying in, and they didn't have any adult supervision, you know, and so they all came in and were really scared, and they were all sitting there at the booth, you know, and I went over and I asked them, I said, you guys all okay? And, you know, I said, have you all called your parents and told them that you were all okay? And they said, yeah, we did that. And I said, okay, because I mean, it was very scary. Everybody was down on the ground, you know, I mean, and then we got up and tried to refocus, you know, it was awful.
Oh, those poor kids. And keep in mind, many Kansas City area school districts made that decision to let school out for the day today. Not all, but most. And so there were many children there for that rally today, the parade and the rally both.
Yeah, Neil Jones has talked about, you know, he was 35 feet away from where the shooting happened, and he used two words, sheer terror. And then you hear from those eyewitnesses, when you hear about the kids who heard and saw what was going on, they go off running. They're in a panic. It's what a frightening day. Speaking of Neil Jones, Neil is still on the scene. Neil, you've been reporting all afternoon. Let's go back to you again.
It happened a little more than 3 hours ago, right down there on that intersection at Pershing and Kessler. It was just maybe 150 yards away from the stage where Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs had just received their trophy and been in front of the crowd. Photographer Greg Malone and I were moving into the intersection to interview some fans to talk about what a wonderful night it was. Instead, we heard what we now know is shots. This is the video that Greg Malone shot at that moment. We didn't know if it was firecrackers, but the crowd's reaction told us this is more than fireworks. They were terrified. Youngsters, parents with their older parents, with children, trying to find a way away from whatever was going down. Then as we got into the intersection, we saw at least 2 victims on the ground. Greg Malota, our photographer, said that there were 2 different people that they treated with CPR right there on the ground in the moments after the shooting. Meanwhile, law enforcement were coming in from every direction to determine who had done the shooting and to get them on the ground. They apprehended a man. Another person who was down there, but not in uniform, said he's one of the suspects. It took a couple of officers to subdue him. They took him into an area and treated him for possible wounds, and then carted him off in handcuffs, it looked like to me, but it's certainly his hands behind his back, and he was subdued. Whether he's a suspect or not, we don't know. Then they began to treat people on the ground. They took one person away instantly, almost instantly, because of the severity of their injuries, on a cart, and took them to an ambulance that was off to the side a bit. At this time, people are still coming into the area. They've known something has happened, but they were on the other side of Union Station. They didn't know exactly what it was, and when they found out, they began to run. So for a period of about 15 minutes, it was a very fluid situation with a lot of fear. Nobody knew if the gunman or multiple gunmen were on the loose. All they could do was try to get their family to safety and get their children out of that situation. All in all, just a horrible end to what had been a glorious day here in Kansas City.
Yeah, should have been, and it was up until that moment. Neil, thank you for your reporting this afternoon. It has been,
Well, he was he was an eyewitness, more than a
truly.
reporter. He was right there in the middle of it. He and photographer Greg Malota, we're glad they're okay. Our hearts are broken. For those who are in the hospital right now, I continue to follow on social media, and I'm hearing from people who are now saying, I have family members in the hospital. So Chiefs Kingdom coming together in grief now that this triumphant day has turned into tragedy. And, you know, everyone's asking why, and we're looking for answers, and there are no answers right now. All we can do is listen to the police authorities and try to ascertain, you know, what happened through their investigation, although it is still very, very, very early. We are waiting for another news conference with the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. It was supposed to happen at 5 o'clock. It's 5:10 right now. These things are very fluid, so we'll continue to stay with you here on KCTV 5 to cover every single angle of what has been such a tumultuous day in downtown Kansas City on what should have been a shining day. Instead, it is now overshadowed by sadness.
Yeah, senseless is the best word you've used so far. Absolutely senseless. And the best thing we can do for you at home is to talk to as many of you who were there to help us try to explain what exactly happened today to end the day so badly. So let's hear from some more eyewitnesses.
We're traveling from Wichita, Kansas today, so about two and a half hour hike down the road, come up to celebrate for the big game, brought the family with us, and we have friends in town. So we had about 10, 15 of us on the lawn up here, wives and children, and, all the kids running around. And about the time you hear shooting anywhere when you're with family, your first instinct as a parent or anybody is, protect those around you. So we started grabbing the kids and, running for cover at that point, along with everybody else in the crowd, plus the big rush of the crowd moving backwards. I mean, there was a good chunk of people down here today. So just getting out of the way of that rush of people coming in, you wanted to move too. So everybody retreated back pretty quick, and at least everybody's safe and sound on this side, and prayers to everybody that didn't get out of here safe and sound.
Well, yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest fears in massive crowds like this, where you're shoulder to shoulder like that, is getting trampled. And that apparently has happened to several people today, and some injuries resulted from that. We have heard also from Sharice Davids. Let's go ahead and take a look at what she has sent out in this statement, saying, "Words cannot describe the pain and shock we are feeling as a joyous day turned into tragedy right in our community," end quote. "My heart is with the victims' families, and I pray for the quick recovery of those injured. I appreciate the bravery and coordination of the law enforcement officers, first responders, and healthcare workers for ensuring a swift, orderly evacuation and caring for the victims. Though our community stands together in the present, the traumatic memories of today will stick with children, families, and community members for far too long. This does not reflect the spirit of Kansas City, and I support those asking for a change to ensure a brighter and safer future." She very much echoing what the mayor of Kansas City has also said today, is that something must be done to try to stop this from happening.
And the reality is that last year there were more homicides in Kansas City than at any other point in Kansas City's history. So there's that.
There is that, and there is that knowledge of that Kansas City has a horrible homicide rate compared to other cities. And then while the spotlight is on us for a winning world champion team, this is what we show them.
Yeah, I can appreciate the fact that we want people to look at our community and say, wow, look at Kansas City. They're champions, world champions. But we can't hide the fact that we do have a violence problem in Kansas City. And again, our homicide rate was the highest ever in 2023. And I believe we already have, as of last night, we had 11 homicides. This now presumably makes it 12 in Kansas City, and we're in our second month. So those are the realities of where we are and who we are. But it doesn't overshadow the fact that people went to this parade, and people should still be able to expect to go to downtown Kansas City and feel safe and have fun and take your kids to a championship parade. Those are the things we still hold on to, and still think that I can go have fun with my family and not worry about ramifications. All right, I'm sorry, you told me where. Okay, we do. Again, our crews have been working so hard to talk to as many people who were on scene there and saw what happened. Here's another.
So we were on the east side of the stage, on the outside of the barricades. KCMO came in force with assault rifles, told everybody to move, jump the barricades. We come, this is the third year, collect Super Bowl confetti. I followed them over the barricades. Started collecting confetti. They went inside the building. Within probably 1 to 2 minutes, everyone started running out of the building and people were yelling active shooter. And so we continued to collect confetti, and probably 30 seconds after that, they told us to hit the ground. So I was crawling on the ground up against the barricades and just waiting for their instructions.
Harrowing.
Actually, the second or third witness that has reported that the shooting seemed to have emerged from inside the building. We're hearing that a couple of times now. Again, we're piecing all of this together, as are you. The results are the same, and sadly, we are waiting now to hear again from the police chief of Kansas City, Missouri, and we're also waiting to hear from University Health, formerly Truman Medical Center, for the latest on their patient count and the status of their victims, the conditions of the victims that ended up there at that hospital. That just one of 3 hospitals that we know of that received patients from this. We had heard that some patients were taken to St. Luke's. We definitely have confirmation now that at least 9 children or minors are being treated at Children's Mercy. And again, we're waiting to hear from University Health as well, because we believe that there are at least 8 gunshot victims among them that likely ended up there.
And I just received a direct message from someone on social media who was near the area of the shooting, said that he ran into Union Station and then said that there was more gunfire, and I'm not clear, but said there was more gunfire apparently coming from inside Union Station. Again, these are the questions that we need to ask of the Kansas City Police Department, because there is still so much that we don't know about what happened. I do know that our Grace Smith has been reporting all day long. She's at University Health. Grace, what's the latest there?
Yeah, we are currently waiting until after the mayor's press conference to hear the latest updates. What we know so far is 8 gunshot victims from Union Station are here currently getting treated. We know 2 of those victims are in critical condition, and they are also treating 4 others who did not suffer from gunshot wounds, but other injuries from that rally. So any minute after the mayor's press conference, she will go on, give an update. So we are continuing to learn more, and we will provide you with that information.
And Grace, I know you were just at Children's Mercy as well. We're hearing at least 9 children being treated there as well,
yes,
for gunshot wounds.
9 children, yes, 9 children. They could be minors, but still 9 children who could also be minors as well. So we don't know the exact numbers with that, but we know 9 children fall under that category. So
devastating. Grace, thank you.
Yeah.
And as soon as you have anything new or anything else to report, let us know. We'll get right back to you immediately. So just grave numbers coming out of this.
The worst of which is one confirmed dead at this point, and at least 3 of these numbers allegedly in critical condition at this point. So we, along with the mayor and the police chief and the rest of the chiefs, players, send our prayers to these families who are dealing with this emotional toll tonight as they await for word on how their family members are doing.
Yeah, and we keep waiting, just like you are, for the latest word. Kansas City, Missouri police were supposed to hold a briefing to update us on what happened. That was supposed to happen at 5 o'clock. It's now about 5:19 right now, so we'll continue to wait as they are gathering evidence and gathering information and talking to eyewitnesses. So many people involved today. And it doesn't, you think about the people who were right around the shooting, but then you have so many people, as we heard from the one eyewitness who was in his condo, who was up above looking down. He had a vantage point. He could hear and see what was going on. So many people reliving this moment of that gunfire. What could we have done differently? What should I have been somewhere else? What should I have run a different way? So many people now trying to process what happened during that horrible time when there was rapid fire of gunshots being fired. We don't know what type of a gun it was. eyewitnesses say it sounded like it may have been a semi-automatic gun. But clearly there was a rapid succession of bullets being fired, as many as 15 to 20, and that kind of follows in line with how many injured that we have here, people who are in the hospital right now struggling with injuries, one confirmed dead. It's been a bloody day in Kansas City, and there's no other way to paint it.
And if you're just now tuning in and learning of this and wondering where exactly this happened, as you were looking at the stage, it would have been to the left-hand corner of the stage. And as you were mentioning there were seats set out front, in front of that rally stage. And so that's where presumably all the dignitaries would be, and that is exactly in the area where this would have happened. There are many, many eyewitnesses, no doubt. We are hearing from just a few, but no doubt literally hundreds, if not thousands, at least heard something wasn't right.
Yeah. All right, we're being told that we're very close to this news conference that's going to happen just within the next couple of minutes, so stay with us. We're going to get the very latest updates from Chief Stacey Graves about the terrible, tragic events that unfolded right outside of Union Station following, right toward the very end, just as the celebration had ended. The Chiefs players were getting ready to file off stage. People were having so much fun. The weather was perfect. The sun was shining.
I mean, it was all coming together.
People were getting ready to continue their celebration. But here we go. Here's Mayor Q and Chief Stacey Graves.
Here to give another update. Again, I'm Mayor Quentin Lucas. I'm joined by Kansas City Police Chief Stacey Graves, the Kansas City Fire Chief Ross Grundyson. One thing that we want to note at the outset, the situation continues to have updates. Things will continue to change throughout the night. That's why we are here to give you an update right now. The chief, both chiefs, will be giving more information both on the numbers of victims, the status of victims. The chief of police will give more updates on the investigation. A few things to note that we talked about earlier. In terms of who was in danger, what existed, it is my view, as someone who did have to run at the sound of shooting, that there were a number of people who were, in the very least, caught up in the incident in some way. Myself, my wife, lots of families, players, chief staff, and others, their spouses, their families, a number of people who were in or near Union Station. So many people have been touched by this incident, and we recognize that. We also pray not only for the victims, including the decedent that was discussed earlier and their family, but also the victims of the shootings right now, who we hope are recovering inside our hospitals. We'll continue to give you updated information. At this point, we've talked to our federal partners. We have also talked to the Kansas City Chiefs. We will be talking to the National Football League and others. More so, just to hear that all are safe who are with those institutions, and we continue to hope that all of those who are impacted are safe. To the extent you have information about suspects or others, we do encourage you to call the police. However, if for whatever other reasons you have information about the incident, we will be looking to share that through different methods. So if you have information about the incident, suspects and others, please call the police. If you're looking for other information, we'll try to continue to give you regular updates. I'll say this final thing, and then we'll come back for questions at the end. Today was tragic for everyone who was part of it. I had the chance to talk to my wife just a moment ago, who said we became part of a statistic of too many Americans, those who have experienced or been part of or connected to a mass shooting. That is something that I hope we all recognize is highly problematic for all of us. I continue to commend our police officers, our firefighters, and others who were there to respond instantly. But we also need to figure out a way to make sure that things like this stop happening in our country. With that, I turn it over to the Chief of Police, Stacey Graves.
Thank you. I just want to echo the mayor's thoughts and his prayers, and also to acknowledge that not only the victims who were actually hit by gunfire, but there are a lot more people who are going to be forever impacted by what happened here today. You know, as people were running, you know, a lot of us law enforcement who were running towards the danger also guided those who were in fear of their lives, and that's something to be said of how impactful today's event truly was. Again, we have confirmed there is one deceased person. Our gunshot wound total has went up to 22, and Chief Grundison will provide a little bit more context to that. Right now, we're still working on a total of number of victims. This is still an active investigation. I do want to comment on the question that I got earlier about a video of some fans tackling someone. We do have 3 persons detained and under investigation for today's incident. We are working to determine if one of the 3 are the one that was in that video where fans assisted police. Our investigators are working with all of the surviving victims to connect them with loved ones. We are also working to identify our deceased victim so we can notify their family as soon as possible. We are also in the process of staffing a centralized phone number. This centralized phone number will be for those who are victims, witnesses, and if anyone has video or any information about what led up to what happened here today. Again, we are continuously receiving information minute by minute, which is a part of the delay of us coming down here. But I do want to pass this on to Chief Grundison to give a little bit more context to some of the status of our victims.
Just want to say that all of KCFD's thoughts and prayers are with those families that were affected by this tragedy today. And while we were not expecting it, we were ready and prepared for an event such like this. Our KCFD units, along with our mutual aid partners that were working to assist us at this event, touched a total of 22 gunshot victims. One of those was a fatality. We had 8 what we considered immediately life-threatening patients. We had 7 with life-threatening injuries, and we had 6 that had minor injuries. Of the most serious, the immediately life-threatening injuries, we had 8 of those. Those were all transported and off the scene and route to hospitals within 10 minutes. So we felt the response was certainly adequate and appropriate, and I commend all our staff working there today, along with PD, that did an excellent job under difficult circumstances. We transported 3 different hospitals. We transported Children's Mercy, Truman Medical, and also St. Luke's on the Plaza.
Questions?
Yeah, so we're getting
Who are you asking?
anyone that can answer the question. So we've heard people talking about gunshots that they've heard near the west side of Union Station, and then also gunfire and situations that happened near the fountain and the stoplight over there near the intersection of Bershon. Was there 2 separate scenes? Was there one big scene? Do you know the answer to that question?
That is still an active scene. That is a large ground to cover, as you know, the size of the Union Station. I will tell you, we have located that crime scene on the west side of Union Station. As far as in the front of, that is still under investigation. We have crime scene investigators as well as the detectives. We had a lot of our assault squad detectives and our homicide detectives that were actually in uniform today working the assignment. So not only did you have uniformed presence immediately responding to the scene, rendering aid, going towards danger, but you also had detectives that were immediately on the scene that are still there and actively working.
Are you investigating any sort of connection with the earlier shooting of the day at 27th and McLean?
At this time, we don't know if that's connected, but that is something that we are looking at.
Children's Mercy says that they want parents to contact them if they don't know where their children are. Do you know that there may be, are there kids there who have appearance?
I can tell you we have detectives at all of the local hospitals that are investigating, like I said earlier, trying to connect our victims to their loved ones. Should that be the case and it's a child, someone can either contact police, or if that is what Children's Mercy is requesting, of course they can contact them as well. Right now we do not have a motive, but we are asking those who may potentially have any kind of information, a witness or video, to contact police. That's one of that, what I talked about, that phone number that we're setting up that's going to be centralized for victims, witnesses, and potential video evidence.
Any age range on the person?
I do not have that yet. I have not been able to confirm another death.
You mentioned that there were some victims taken to Children's Mercy Hospital. I understood from staff at Children's Mercy Hospital that they received, they have 9 shooting victims, and it's possible that one of them was an adult. Do you know how many children were shot, if it was 8 or 9? And when we're talking children, are we talking about little ones or 17-year-olds? Do you know, Chief?
Children's accepts patients up to 17 years old. Children's accepts patients up to 17 years old, and but we do not have that information currently on the exact ages of the patients that were transported. Yeah, I mean, Children's confirming we did transport to Children's Mercy, but we do not have the ages of those patients.
Mayor, how scared? You had over 800 officers deployed to work this parade, to work outside of Union Station, and still in a matter of moments, 22 people were shot.
I mean, that's what happens with guns. I won't get in a big debate right now. I think we're still doing an investigation, but I mean, what you saw happen was why people talk about guns a lot. We had over 800 officers there, staffed, situated all around Union Station today. We had security in any number of places, eyes on top of buildings and beyond. And there still is a risk to people. And I think that's something that all of us who are parents, who are just regular people living each day, have to decide what we wish to do about it. Parades, rallies, schools, movies, it seems like almost nothing is safe. And we had hundreds of law enforcement there working hard today. And I do want to echo what the chief said. We were running towards danger, but in a matter of seconds, someone who wants to disrupt anything, someone who wants to create any type of situation, or someone who is very simply reckless can change not just one life or 2 lives, but almost 2 dozen. And that to me is absolutely devastating, and it makes me feel vastly more concerned as a parent just in the world today thinking about that.
Chief Graves, can you tell us more about how you were able to detain those 2 individuals?
I'll get you in just a second.
Clearly caused so much harm.
What was the question?
Can you tell us more about how you were able to detain those 2 suspects into custody?
Uniformed officers were on scene. I don't have all the information of exactly what they witnessed, but there was a pursuit, apprehension, slight injuries by our officers taking someone into custody. But as far as you're directly answering your question, I don't have that information right now.
Chief Graves, you have 2 gunmen in custody.
If you were talking about weapons earlier, can you tell me how many and what type of weapons?
I don't have the exact on the weapons, but we have recovered firearms. I don't have a number for you or a caliber. We have recovered firearms, at least 1.
Okay. Chief Graves, you have 2 gunmen in custody. Do you believe there are any others still unaccounted for?
We have 3 people that we have detained, and that is what we are asking for, is if anyone has any information, is a witness or has any kind of video that may provide us if there is anybody else that was involved in this.
So is there a risk to the community at this point?
No, at this time, the scene has been cleared. It's being held, and when I say cleared, I say the scene has been made safe, and it's been cleared. Right now, we are in the investigative portion of that, collecting evidence, whether that be digital evidence or physical evidence. That is what we are doing right now, and we're also conducting interviews. Obviously, we have several victims that we need to have a conversation with, to ask questions, also witnesses. So there's a lot of work ahead in this. This is just the beginning stages, but we are moving as fast as we can.
Can you explain that there was like a 5 minutes between the first shots and the second?
All of that has not been determined just yet. The number of shots, the time in between them, the motive, all of that is still actively being investigated.
We don't know if there were 2 separate scenes. We don't know the answer to that at this point.
I cannot confirm that yet.
And just, did I miss this? Was this inside or outside Union Station?
This was all outside Union Station. Okay, I thank you.
Thank you.
Might have just been somebody who was helping. I just want to make sure I'm right with my math.
You're listening in here to the latest update we are getting from Mayor Quentin Lucas and police chief, as well as the fire captain. talking about the latest on this. Tragically, we're getting some more information here now. Not just 2, but 3 people, we understand, were taken into custody, and the victim count has gone up as well. The gunshot victims now add up to 22, with 1 dead among them, but 22 hurt in this shooting in front of the Chiefs' victory rally today.
Yeah, they also have recovered a gun. They say, Chief Graves said that they've also, the scene's not necessarily cleared, but it is cleared that it is considered to be a safe scene. They're continuing to look for bullet casings and continue to do their full-scale investigation of what you normally have to do when anytime that there's a shooting investigation that takes place. It is a long and arduous investigation that happens. Never mind that there were, thousands of people at this crime scene, so that only makes things more complicated and more tricky for investigators to look into. But clearly, the big news out of that, 2 things, that there are now 22 shooting victims, 1 dead, but that there is now a 3rd person in custody. Right before this news conference, we'd all been under the impression that there had been 2 people taken into custody. So now there is a 3rd person that's in custody. So that just more information that is coming out. We're beginning to learn more and more about this.
We're also hearing from Mayor Quentin Lucas about his thoughts on the day, but we're also hearing from University Health here. Let's listen into this.
I'm Charlie Shields. I'm the president and CEO of University Health. Obviously, a very challenging day for the city, very traumatic, not only for the city, but also for our staff. So we are a level 1 trauma center. This is what we train for. We implemented our mass casualty protocols. We saw 8 shooting victims in the hospital as a result of that. But we also had a significant number of staff that were on the scene. We were manning the aid stations, so they were able to render aid very quickly to the patients that were injured on the scene. So Mark Steele is our Executive Chief Clinical Officer. He can answer any questions, talk about the condition of the patients that we saw and what's going on there. So Dr. Steele?
Yes, so as Charlie said, we actually had a total of 12 patients, 8 that were gunshot victims. Otherwise, the other 4 had other sorts of problems. And 2 of the people who were shot are in critical condition. The others are all in stable condition.
I just want to make sure I heard the numbers correctly. So 8 gunshot victims or
8 gunshot victims in total who came here.
Of those 8 gunshot victims, are they over the age of 18?
I don't know their exact ages.
Can you tell us anything about them?
I mean, all I can tell you is that 6 are stable and the other 2 are in critical condition.
We saw some of your staff running into the hospital here, and we also saw some of your staff that were stationed here waiting to accept people that come in here. What type of protocol do you train for and then had to activate?
Yeah, now, as a level 1 trauma center, we train for this kind of thing. We obviously hope that it never happens, but we were actually very well prepared. We had enough notice that we were going to get some patients. We didn't know exactly how many. Fortunately, being during the day, we had a lot of professionals, a lot of physicians on here present. And so very quickly, we discontinued starting any new surgical cases so that those surgeons and anesthesiologists would be available for any patients who had to go to the operating room. We called in some additional people early to come here to help out, additional emergency physicians, and some other surgeons came from home. Sorry, I can't hear you.
We have reports from the family that Elisa Galvan Lopez, died recently in the hospital. Are you able to confirm that?
We didn't have anyone die at the hospital here.
What are your takeaways from today? Obviously, a wonderful day here that's turned into a tragedy.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously it's a big tragedy, such a big celebration, everybody having a lot of fun, and it's wrapping up and people are going to head home, and all of a sudden this happens. So, and as Charlie said, it's very traumatic. It's traumatic for anybody who was there in the area, not only our staff, but all the people who were around and saw this, and so it's really very unfortunate.
One question. When you say critical condition, can you explain that to our viewers, give them a scope of what that means?
Well, that means they're very, very sick, and certainly we hope that they're going to survive, but when somebody's in critical condition, Certainly things could turn south, but we hope that doesn't happen with these two individuals.
Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, we've been listening in to updates as to injuries, and again, 1 dead, 22 wounded, 8 with life-threatening injuries. That is a high number. 3 people in custody. We continue to learn more about what happened just a matter of hours ago.
Yeah, at least 2 of the 8 taken there to University Health, formerly Truman Medical Center, are in critical condition at this hour. We're getting word that there are obviously victims going to several different local hospitals, so we're slowly hearing from each one of them as to how many patients they've taken in from this particular scene. Again, 8 there at University Health, 2 of them in critical condition. We're hearing 9 children, or at least minors, taken to Children's Mercy. We're assuming the rest of the 22 are either at St. Luke's and possibly also at KU Med.
All right, let's get an update now from Grace Smith, who's out in the field reporting. Grace?
Yeah, so we just heard word from them, and they actually said that 12 patients here were treated, 8 gunshot wounds, 4 other injuries, and 6 are stable, and the others are not. And they said that, you know, they train for stuff like this, but unfortunately this is just a very sad, sad day. But as I said, 12 patients here, 8 gunshot victims, 4 other injuries here. We'll keep you updated as we learn more.
Just to confirm, Grace, where are you now? What hospital are you speaking of with the 12?
University Health.
University Health. Okay, very good. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Grace. Grace reporting, obviously.
And they
on
couldn't confirm any of the age range
Okay.
either.
Right.
Okay, thanks, Grace.
Yeah, we're waiting to hear what kind of ages we're talking about here, because as all of you know at home, this victory parade was open to everyone, and there were all ages clearly in attendance there as the city welcomed in grand style.
We saw so many kids there today.
I would guess
so many.
close to 1 million people somewhere along that parade route, and then along the rally point there at Union Station. Earlier this afternoon, parade kicked off at 11, and just before 2 o'clock, just as the rally had wrapped up and things were coming to an end, and we were actually commenting on how quickly people were leaving.
I had just said
and
that.
at that part of the stage, now we understand why they were exiting so quickly.
Wow. There's the Baltimore Ravens have commented about this on social media. This is on X. Baltimore Ravens saying, "Our hearts are with Chiefs Kingdom following the tragic events and shocking violence that occurred during today's parade in Kansas City. On a day meant for uniting people in joy and celebrating love, we send our full support to every citizen of the region and each member of the Chiefs organization who has been affected by this senseless tragedy." Again, that's a statement from the Baltimore Ravens. And I also just saw on social media that a young fan who was told to shelter inside Union Station got separated from his group, and he was crying, stunned, and the first person that came to him was head coach Andy Reid, who gave him a hug and tried to comfort him and tried to help him. But these are just some of the myriad of stories that are going to come out of this, of what people, where were you when the shooting happened, and what did you do, and what happened next?
Yeah, and what did you hear? What did you
going
see?
to be so many stories that people have. People right now, probably many people just getting home right now who've had to, navigate all the traffic, or maybe they left belongings down there, maybe tried to get back. But we've seen outside of Union Station, there are so many belongings and things that people just literally dropped and ran and left behind. But so many of this, people are processing what happened today and now trying to come to terms with what happened, how they got through it, and now how they feel about it, in addition to thinking and praying for those people who are fighting for their lives now in local hospitals.
Yeah, some of them children. Unbelievable this afternoon. We also hear from Mayor Quentin Lucas and the police chief Stacey Graves. They both really took the time at this latest briefing to encourage any of you at home. If you were witness to it, you saw what happened, or possibly, we know many of you had your cameras up taking video of the stage at the time. If you might by chance have any video that could be important to this investigation, they were definitely asking that you contact police and help out with this investigation in that way. Be a big help in trying to piece together what exactly happened here about 2 o'clock today, as we were just wrapping up what should have been a picture-perfect day of victory, a celebratory day turned tragic very, very quickly.
And to your point about, getting video, I mean, think about it. Everybody had phones and whatnot, but I saw on TMZ, they had video of when the shots were fired. So that's exactly what Chief Graves is talking about.
Yeah, we need that.
If there are any video of when shots were being fired, get that to Kansas City, Missouri police. All right, well, we want to hear more now from eyewitnesses who were there when it happened.
I've got to give a huge shout out to the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department and the FBI and all the servicemen and women that were here, rushed immediately to render aid and either apprehend the suspects. I don't know really what happened to this point, but it was a very coordinated effort. You saw, masses of police in blue, military folks in camo, all running towards the chaos. So from what I saw, the good guys were running in and all the civilians were running away. So just chaotic, but very thankful for the servicemen and women and those protecting us.
I mean, gosh, it looks like there's still just, it's like more than 50 police officers down there. Obviously they're still looking like the situation on the other side.
Yeah. It's been weird. Because then we saw hordes of police officers running into the garage here, which led me to believe that there was likely maybe still an active shooter situation going on. I have not paid attention close enough to see police leave the parking garage, but that was definitely really weird. It was probably 10 minutes after those first 2 rounds of shots had happened, which we saw teams of those in AR rifles heading towards the parking garage west of Union Station.
Those are the kind of eyewitness accounts that so many that the police really need to hear from right now to try to piece all of this together. Let's go back now to our Neil Jones. He has been right down there as close as any of our crews were when this actually broke out. You were too close for comfort, quite frankly, Neil.
No, there's no question about it. Happened right down there. Greg Malota, our photographer, and I were heading into the intersection. The event had just ended and people were starting to leave. So we were going to go in and do some interviews with them about what had been just a magnificent day, just a beautiful day weather-wise, a beautiful day in every possible way. And then suddenly, from this video you see that Greg Malota shot at that time, suddenly we thought it might have been firecrackers, but it turns out it was gunfire breaks out. The crowd, many of them with children, with older people, their parents. I have 3 generations of one family enjoying the day, suddenly trying to get out. People were knocked down. Children were knocked down. They got up. They tried their best to get away. We saw people on the ground, and then we knew this was not fireworks. This was gunfire. My photographer, Greg Malota, says that he witnessed 2 different people being administered CPR while they were on the ground right there. Then, moments later, maybe a minute and a half later, we see somebody wrestling with a police officer, and someone yells, "He's a suspect." I don't know if that was a police officer who yelled that, but he was not in uniform. But police officers subdued that man, ultimately took him into a place, I think maybe treated him for some superficial wounds, and then took him out on like a golf cart. They then took the worst of the 2 victims out on a golf cart to get him out of this immediate area. And remember, while this is happening, hundreds and hundreds more people are streaming out, trying to get away. Some of them didn't know there was a shooting. They were on the other side of the stage. It happened too far away. It was a bizarre, horrible scene. People were frightened. You saw people. I did not see any children at any time separated from their parents. There were no single children running around crying or anything. It looked like everybody was able to keep their children with them and get them out safely in most cases. it was just what was a horrible end to what had been a simply glorious day here in Kansas City.
Oh, just total mayhem there. It's sad. It's frustrating. It's everything, and scary, terrifying. You name it. Neil, thank you so much for all of your reporting there this afternoon. We also want to reiterate here too, while we had been hearing that it started out with some sort of argument between two people taken into custody, kind of made us all feel a little better that at least the problem was eliminated. We are now hearing that the police chief confirming 3 people now have been taken into custody. In what form or for what, we don't know yet. We're waiting to hear. No charges necessarily yet, but 3 people taken into custody.
Kansas City Sports Commission just issued a statement on X. I'll read it. It says, today's celebration ended in a horrific and needless act of violence. We grieve for those directly impacted as well as their family and friends. We grieve that a moment of joy for Kansas City was turned into a time of fear. Our staff and volunteers, while deeply shaken, are safe. Thank you to our local, state, and federal law enforcement partners for their swift action to secure the scene and prevent further casualties. As we continue to learn more, we remain committed to maintaining constant communication with the mayor's office and the Kansas City Police Department. So we continue to hear from several different entities, both local and nationally, for that matter. We've heard from Patrick Mahomes. We've heard from the Baltimore Ravens. We've heard from so many different people who are now saying, we're with Chiefs Kingdom. We grieve with Chiefs Kingdom. Our hearts are broken for those people who are impacted and for their families who have been impacted. It's a day that nobody saw this coming. How could you? Although police try to plan for this, but this is what people will remember, is the absolute shock that went through immediately after the parade celebration ended, and everyone was in such high spirits. The weather was perfect. Everything was great. And then this happened, and frankly, we're all stunned by it and now trying to deal with it. So
we're also, poor Kathy Nelson with the Sports Commission, just ready to take a bow for bringing yet another amazing sports victory story to this city. And this has to tarnish that celebration. That is a shame. That is a terrible shame. Waiting also to hear from more of you to explain. We know rideshare was the kind of word of the day today, with the different shuttle bus routes and everything kind of put into place, things that we've learned through successful parades in the past. We've figured out how to shuttle people in and shuttle people out. Anxious to hear from all of you at home. Let us know how that went. Were you able to use those shuttles to get back to safety as you needed? We're waiting to hear from many people to kind of put the finishing touches on what exactly transpired at Union Station today. We also have Zach and Sharon. They are joining us now. They have been there atop the National World War I Museum and Memorial earlier today, since early on this morning. They're still there on the scene now. Guys, where are you now and what are you hearing?
Well, Carolyn and Brad, we were at the top of the museum and memorial. Now we've come down to the street. We're here on the corner of Grand and Pershing, and we can still tell you that there's still a very heavy police presence in this area. In fact, this whole zone was blocked off. It took us a while to get to our location here because we just couldn't get here. There were so many areas still blocked off with law enforcement keeping people out of the crime scene area. That gives you kind of a scope of how large this crime scene is. But this is just a horrifically tragic way to end this day. It started as such a happy day. Zach and I were up at the top of the museum and memorial bringing you happy news as we covered the parade and rally from up above. And then as we wrapped for the day, all of a sudden we saw the crowd, just people running out of Union Station and the crowd scattering on the ground. And we saw police officers running inside towards Union Station. And we just heard dozens and dozens of sirens heading our way. And, for us, it's so hard to believe that this is where we are now, because we had spent the day covering such a happy affair, and sadly, this is the result right now.
Brad, you said it best. Nobody saw this coming. Literally, as this was happening, people were walking away. People were going up toward the memorial, away from Union Station after that great celebration. Even as we stood on top of the memorial, we didn't really know what was going on, but it was just chaotic.
Yeah, we knew something was up because we kept looking at each other and wait, something's wrong, because the cops, there's an emergency situation going on, and then that's when we heard all those sirens and the streams of emergency vehicles headed our way.
Yeah, it's absolutely heartbreaking, and really there are no words
it's
to
hard
describe
to put
this
it into
moment right
words.
now. And you know, the in terms of the temperature around here, it's interesting to see some folks are carrying on as if nothing happened, and that could be that, you know, as this was all ending, it did seem like it ended on a high note. So some people in this area, while they know there's something going on at Union Station, they may still be in that mindset of celebration when really it has turned into such a somber event.
Yeah, and the somberness is also what we're seeing too. As we left up above the memorial to come down to this location, I can't tell you how many people were on the side of the road just holding their heads in their hands, or people just stunned and sitting in silence trying to process what happened here today, because it is just, it's so unbelievable. It's so surreal in so many ways. I think now we want to head over to Mark Paulos.
Yeah, he's at just right up the street on the corner of Main and Pershing. He's got eyes on Union Station. Mark, what's happening where you are?
Hey, Zach, yeah, as the sun sets here in Kansas City, the scene is still very somber outside of Union Station. Now, I know earlier tonight, Police Chief Stacey Graves did say the scene out here is clear, and that is something I can confirm. The scene is safe. I'm going to take a step out of frame so you can see what is going on here. Crews have begun to break down the stage here at Union Station, indicating the safeness of this area. Now, I would say about a half hour ago, there still was a police perimeter surrounding this building. I saw officers from KCTV, Mission Hills, as well as the ATF here to make sure that this area was secure. Now we've seen some of those police lines, those people that were out here, go back inside Union Station. We've seen crews come out and start to break down this stage as the cleanup does begin. Now, one thing I have been hearing out here is how this is an area that's definitely been used in Kansas City for celebrations. I think of the 2015 Kansas City Royals Championship Parade. I think of the other Kansas City Chiefs Championship parades that have been down here. I think about celebration at the station on Memorial Day weekend out here, a kind of a summer kickoff in Kansas City. And now people are going to have to remember that this also happened here. This is a moment, a place where we've had many, many special moments, but this is now a place in Kansas City where many people have had a horrible moment, where many people were here with their family, with their loved ones, and they will remember that they were scared for their lives. Now, another thing also is we got a lot of families that have come down here to Union Station, especially during these Chiefs and Royals playoff runs. There's a lot of stuff here for families to come and do. And again, I will say, some of the families, they're going to have to remember that this is one of the memories that they have of Kansas City, is what went down out here. But again, as you can see, this is the current scene here at Union Station as people are beginning to clean up. But as Brad mentioned earlier, the scene still remains of people just up and leaving their possessions as they were trying to get out of here as quickly as possible. I know my photographer Kimo can see this in the middle, but right next to that white flag, there's it looks chairs, stuff in boxes. A guy was selling some t-shirts here, just up and left all of their stuff as they tried to run to safety. But right now, again, I can't confirm, as Police Chief Stacey Graves did say, this scene is clear. It is appearing safe, and the workers have started to come out and starting to break down that stage. So a little bit of a crazy day out here, but some of the normal things that we were used to seeing as breaking down the equipment that they brought here has begun, as the safety has somewhat at least resumed here in this area. But for now, reporting live, Mark Powell's KCTV 5 News. We're going to toss it back to Brad and Carolyn in the studio.
All right. Thank you, Mark. We appreciate your reporting. So many people shaken by this. Not to mention the players and the staff and head coach Andy Reid, who were there on stage, not very far away from where the shots were being fired. We've heard a little bit from the Chiefs. You know, they issued a statement saying that everyone's fine, all their family members are fine. But you know, you think about how everyone's processing this right now. It's utter shock, because we were all reveling in the fact that the Chiefs, you know, this was our day as Chiefs Kingdom. This was it. And it had been such a glorious day. And then to have this happen, it just, everyone is, you know, I keep hearing from friends and neighbors about what is happening, what is going on. And it's there's no easy answer as to what's
we
going
wish
on.
we had the answer to that, but all we know at this point is that there was some sort of an argument between a couple of people, and gunfire erupted. Whether that was just from the one person or from both, or possibly even a third now, we do know 3 people have been taken into custody now. But the worst number that we're hearing now is that there are a total of 22 injured by gunfire at this point, and one
8,
of those dead.
And 1 dead, and 8 with life-threatening injuries. So many people that we need to think about and hope makes it through. All right, it is now 6 o'clock, so we want to take a moment to reset and try to explain what we know about what's happened so far today. So
Initially, we got reports of a shooting just as that Chiefs parade and the Chiefs pep rally was wrapping up. This was just minutes before 2 o'clock this afternoon. Here is a look at the scene right next to the stage at Union Station when shots were fired. You can see people to the left-hand side of your screen.
Yeah,
see them?
right to the right, running out.
You can see them running away from that scene.
Also on the right side, too.
Running
now we're seeing it.
out and away from Union Station, running across towards Crown Center there as police began to run in to stop whoever was firing a gun, and apparently rapid fire too. Many are calling this likely a semi-automatic weapon.
Yeah, you can just sense the confusion when you watch this video, and it's just, you can see those first responders go, apparently going right to the danger. And then in some of this earlier video, you could see people run and then stop and look around. To what Neil Jones was saying, they didn't even know where the shots were coming from. So for some people, it seemed fruitless to run because they didn't even know where to run to. Now, police tell us that they have taken 3 people so far into custody. Sadly, 1 person has died. At least 22 are hurt. They've been taken to multiple hospitals across our area, including Children's Mercy. We don't know yet. We've been asking these questions. We haven't been given any answers yet. We don't know how old these victims are. Remember, you can be as old, up to 17 years old, and they will still admit you into Children's Mercy Hospital. So at a news conference earlier today, Mayor Quentin Lucas says the city is now part of a troubling statistic.
Today was tragic for everyone who was part of it. I had the chance to talk to my wife just a moment ago, who said we became part of a statistic of too many Americans, those who have experienced or been part of or connected to a mass shooting. That is something that I hope we all recognize is highly problematic for all of us. I continue to commend our police officers, our firefighters, and others who were there to respond instantly. But we also need to figure out a way to make sure that things like this stop happening in our country.
Right, that was Mayor Quentin Lucas talking about some of the day's events and what has happened and the sheer bewilderment that everyone is experiencing, not just in Kansas City, but this is also people across the nation looking at Kansas City saying, this is such a happy time. This is, crowning your Super Bowl champions. And to hear about this, I think there's stunned amazement across the country.
Well, no doubt about it. And KCTV 5's Betsy Webster is also on hand with us tonight, talking with many of those eyewitnesses who were there for this joyous occasion, initially anyway. Betsy?
Yeah, you know what, guys? I just came from the press conference up by the police station, the second of 2 today. And one thing that I noticed, 3:30 this afternoon, here we had city officials, dignitaries, the city manager, many of their staff. They're showing up. They're wearing Chiefs jerseys. They're wearing Charlie Hustle shirts, all just dressed casually. And you could tell they'd come in for a good time. And they were sweating. They looked rattled. Then when they came back out at 5 o'clock, now they're in suits. Now they are prepared. So they were rushing to get information out while they were still very much on the go. The police chief said at this latest news conference that she does not believe that there is any danger to the public remaining from this shooting incident. She referred to the scene as cleared, not cleared that they have left, because you can see that police are still here, but cleared in the sense that they've checked every nook and cranny and they believe there is no one here at this time that would present a danger. As you mentioned, they took 3 people into custody, got at least 1 firearm. They are not sharing a motive yet. This is important, they are now working to set up a dedicated centralized phone number for victims, witnesses, and any video evidence that you can submit. Lots of people out here with phones, lots of people. We are about to go to Greg now. Greg?
Our investigators are working with all of the surviving victims to connect them with loved ones. We are also working to identify our deceased victim so we can notify their family as soon as possible. We are also in the process of staffing a centralized phone number. This centralized phone number will be for those who are victims, witnesses, and if anyone has video or any information about what led up to what happened here today.
Yeah, so many people are out here with their cell phones recording video. We've seen people posting things on social media of people running, of someone who may have been a suspect being tackled. They are now asking you if you have any video that might be of use in this investigation to hold on to that. As soon as they get that centralized phone number set up, we will let you know what it is, and you can get that information to them. Now, the chief and the mayor noted that there were so many people impacted, not just those shot. 22 people shot, by the way. I mean, that is just, I don't know what the words are, but there were people running in fear of their lives, and that kind of thing sticks with people. I've been in touch with several hospitals. When they gave me patient totals, it's not just those with gunshot wounds. There were other people who arrived with injuries from fleeing, at least 3 at Children's Mercy, 4 at University Health, and 3 at St. Luke's. I mean, the message that we keep hearing repeated again and again is that this is sad. Our hearts go out to those who were hurt, whose loved ones were hurt, or in this case, killed. But it's infuriating. Infuriating as well. Because, you know, we could talk about how do we stop this. There are societal things, social things, economic things. But from a police standpoint, they had 600 Kansas City, Missouri police officers here. 250 law enforcement officers from other agencies, including federal agencies. And yet still, this happened. The mayor received a call from the White House. They have offered any law enforcement resources needed to investigate this. At this point, this investigation is in its very early stages, and that's what we've got for you right now.
Hey, Betsy, quick question. You've covered... You've been a reporter for KCTV5 for several years. Have you ever covered or been a part of a shooting that involved 22 victims in your time of reporting here at KCTV5?
No.
Yeah,
no.
It just struck me. I haven't...
Tornado victims, maybe. I mean, you know, we see people killed in large numbers. I've seen people or reported on people killed in large numbers from natural disasters. In a single shooting, no. And it's one of those things that makes you very frustrated. You know, that cliche phrase of like, why can't we have nice things? So it's definitely a lot.
Well, that's why I just wanted to, you know, Carolyn's been here for several years. I've been here for several years. Betsy, you've been here for several years. It just struck me as you were talking. I don't remember of all the crime that we've reported on over the years. I can't ever remember a singular instance in which 22 people were shot. And then you think about the circumstances that we're talking about. We're not talking about midnight in some alleyway, you know, on some Saturday night after a drunken party. We're talking about a parade that was intended for families. And I think that's why so many people are having a hard time grasping with this, is the number of people shot today.
Well, right, and it's who's here, right? So here we have Chiefs players, we have dignitaries, we have families, like you said, with a lot of children here. And to think that you can't go to something like this with your children and not put your children at risk. You can't bring your child to a rally with 850 law enforcement present and be safe. I mean, it makes you, it threatens, I think, for a lot of people, your sense of what can you count on? What can you do to feel like you're safe? And I think when we talk about that extended impact, and I'm going to pause for just a moment, guys, because there's a lot of vehicular traffic right now with loud music, and it's actually a little distracting for me. I'm having trouble even thinking about what I was going to say. But, you know, so it's that sense of safety. When we talk about how many people were impacted by this, you know, we have those who were injured, we have those who were shot, we have those who were injured fleeing, we have those who were here in the moment and still have that heart palpitating fear. And then we have that bigger thing where you wonder if you're safe anywhere anymore.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I don't want to be too dramatic about it, because look, we all go on with our lives, right? And we do the best we can, but it is frustrating because it feels so out of your control when so many precautions were taken, so many measures were taken, and yet still this happens.
Right. What more can you possibly do? Betsy, thank you so much for your reporting here tonight and your perspective as well. It is very poignant, and we couldn't agree more. Where are you safe if not here? For a victory parade in the middle, frankly, right at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, broad daylight on a beautiful sun-shining day. I understand we have a tweet that was put out by Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and he says a couple of different things here as I read this. He says, any chance anyone can help me get in touch with these kids or families? First off, I want to make sure they're doing okay, but would love to help them out any way I can and get them some stuff from the team to help with the recovery. He's talking about the victims who are at Children's Mercy Hospital here. So there's one of the chiefs who has been watching this unfold, first from the stage, and then, you know, as the chiefs were ushered away safely and back to the chiefs training facility, and I'm assuming many of the chiefs and their players or families are now back home. And but there's MVS talking about, what can I do for the kids who are affected? What can I do? Can I send them some gear? Can I send them some stuff? So, you know, clearly so many people have been affected by this. But I do know that we also have, our crew has been doing an unbelievable job of keeping us all updated. Zach Summers and Sharon Chen are out. They're still at the scene there. They've been there since, I don't know, I think 3:30 or 4 this morning. Guys, the latest from your vantage point.
Well, as you know, we started at the top of the National World War I Memorial, Museum and Memorial, and now we're here closer to Union Station. And as we're here tonight, I mean, we're seeing, you know, people still clearing out from that area from, you know, this afternoon where they were going to have a family day. And you can see some families walk by. There are no smiles, guys. There are no smiles. Everyone just kind of makes short eye contact and they keep on going. One woman who walked by, a father with a mother and father walking by with their son. The mother was wiping tears away as she walked by. I mean, this is a tragedy, a complete tragedy, just heartbreaking after a day. We've said this time and time again. This was a day for family. Kids were out of school all over Kansas City. They came here with their mother, their fathers, and, you know, family members, and they were gathered here at Union Station. And where it happened was in the thick of the crowd. It was right around the stage, and that rally it ended in such a happy, joyous moment, and then this tragedy struck. It is truly, truly just heartbreaking.
It really is. And, you know, Brad, you mentioned MVS. You know, there's there's been reporting online of Chiefs players when this all happened. They didn't just take cover, but they saw those little children running for their lives, and they were there to sort of console them while also trying to take shelter. It was really a chaotic scene, but we also heard of the fans who stopped at least one of the suspects that are in custody. So it was chaotic, it was scary, but there were these moments where people looked out for others who
where
were
people
also
came together
scared. And you know, that was just one moment. You know, 30 minutes after that initial shooting, tensions were high in this area. I mean, you had an incident near the Westin, and then just west of Union Station, you had another incident where police swarmed the parking garage. And you know, Chiefs Graves saying that they are still investigating the situation at the Westin, but you just had the sense of like uncertainty. You didn't know what was going on, and anytime you saw police rushing anywhere, you're thinking, oh my God, is something else about to happen?
Yeah, and where we were at the top of the museum and memorial, we had to unplug from you guys, so all we saw was the police activity. We saw snipers running across the top of the hotel, and just this giant police presence start to collect. And it was, I mean, it was stunning when you saw it. It was truly stunning.
Yeah, it really was. We want to hear from an eyewitness to that initial shooting at Union Station.
And then we were just walking normal. I heard something, but I thought fireworks because it's a Chiefs parade.
Right next to us.
Yeah.
One of the ladies.
And then they went running. People were like, I wouldn't go back up there, and they were running, and we were like, why? And they were like, there's a shooter. And then we went running down there, and we were hiding there. And then we came up here, and we were just sitting here, and then we heard more, but they said that was fireworks. We don't know, but it got really scary, and we just hid under the bridge right here for a while. But they said the people are in custody, so it was really scary, though.
Is this your first parade?
No,
this is our fourth.
We've been here to every single one that we've had since 2016.
Yeah.
How are you feeling right now? Just emotions.
I was crazy. Like, it was so, I can't believe it happened here. You know, you hear about these things, but like here, it's Chiefs parade. We're just trying to have some fun. And that's all we hear the whole time, which made it scarier. So.
What about you?
It was, I was in disbelief because I was like, what just happened? And then they were running, and then my brother was like, we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta dip. And so we started like running down the hill because these other guys were like, there's a shooter, there's a shooter. And I was just like, right now here, like what is happening? This should not be happening. And it was just definitely very scary. Didn't know what to think. Called our mom. Her mom is very calm. She kept us very calm the whole time.
Yeah, really. Nobody ever expects this to happen. You know, I have friends around the country, and I've been bombarded with messages asking me, am I okay? And really, physically, yes, I'm okay, but emotionally, I'm a little heartbroken, you know, and my heart breaks for the person who may be in Kansas City or someone visiting our city who lost their lives today, and then the other 22 people who will be scarred by this forever.
And 9 of those possibly minors too, and that is just heartbreaking that, you know, this is an event for kids and kids and teens, and you know,
and
they
families.
come here, and families, they come here to enjoy and to have this happen. I mean, it truly is there are so many words that come to mind, and it's hard to put it into words, but really heartbreaking, tragic, horrific. I mean, this was a terrifying situation today for families who are supposed to have a fun day.
Absolutely, and Neil Jones really was in the thick of it. He's done great reporting over the last several hours. Neil, walk us through those moments earlier today.
Well, it happened so quickly. You know, anybody who's been in a car accident at high speed understands it might feel like it lasts about 20 minutes, but it happens in just a matter of moments, and that's what happened. Photographer Greg Malota and I were moving down into that intersection as the rally ended to get some interviews with some fans to celebrate what had been a glorious day. And here's some video that our photographer Greg Malota shot at that moment. We didn't know if it was gunfire. We thought it might be fireworks. I said, is that gunfire? And my photographer said, no, I think it's fireworks. It sounded like someone shooting off a string of firecrackers, you know, maybe 15 or 20 firecrackers. It happened in a matter of seconds, and then suddenly, as the crowd was running away, parents taking their children, older people making their way out the best they could. Suddenly, we saw people lying on the ground. That's when we knew these were not fireworks. This was a shooting. There were injured people. Greg Malota photographed at least 2 people who were on the ground and being treated by emergency workers. Police officers immediately raced in. They were all over the place as part of the parade security. They raced in. Someone said the shooter went that way, and a bunch of police officers ran off to the west down Pershing Road after somebody. I couldn't see what happened. I had no idea whether or not that was someone they arrested or not. Then we saw that they were doing serious CPR on 2 of the victims who had been shot that were laying on the ground. Moments later, someone yelled, "There's a suspect." Police officers fought a man to the ground, subdued him, ultimately took him out on a cart. I have no idea if he truly was a suspect. That's just what one person yelled. It was absolute mayhem. And when I find out that there are 22 people injured, I am stunned because there were not 22 people lying on the ground after the shooting. So obviously, maybe they were injured and didn't know they had been injured until they got away a little bit and sat down and said, "Wait a minute, I'm bleeding." Who knows? It was a shocking situation. Here's how one eyewitness described it to us.
So we were on the east side of the stage, on the outside of the barricades. Casey Moe came in force with assault rifles, told everybody move, jump the barricades. We come, this is the 3rd year, collect Super Bowl confetti. I followed them over the barricades. Started collecting confetti. They went inside the building. Within probably 1 to 2 minutes, everyone started running out of the building and people were yelling active shooter. And so we continued to collect confetti, and probably 30 seconds after that, they told us to hit the ground. So I was crawling on the ground up against the barricades and just waiting for their instructions.
There were a number of people that walked into the area where the shooting had been, maybe a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, who had no idea there had been a shooting. There was loud music over off the stage. They didn't notice. Who thinks of something like that? And they're walking through and they're looking around like, what is going on? Because policemen are running around. And there were only 2 victims I saw on the ground. Greg, did you see more? Our photographer, Greg Malota, did you see more? We didn't see more than 2. So all of the people who were hurt were not laying on the ground at that time, but there were a couple. Our photographer was accosted by a man in the crowd. Who knows why? He tried to grab his camera. I confronted him. He shoved me to the ground. I don't think he had anything to do with the shooting. I just think he was acting out. It was a bizarre set of circumstances that happened so quickly. It's stunning. I've heard from people like other people. I've heard from former Channel 5 workers, other people in the media who've reached out to me to find out if we were all right because they knew Greg and I were in the middle of it. Guys, it happened so quickly that I'm just stunned that so many people were hurt.
Yeah, it couldn't have been a worse time, honestly. I mean, there's no good time for this, obviously.
No.
But this with so many people smashed in, shoulder to shoulder in one small area, it's just horrifying. Neil, thank you so much for your reporting tonight. We should mention coming up here at the bottom of the hour, we are expecting word from Children's Mercy directly as to what their patient count is and what they've seen this afternoon.
All right, we're also hearing on social media from a number of organizations. The Kansas City Royals just tweeted this out on X moments ago, saying, "Our hearts ache from the senseless violence that took place at the parade. We stand with our city and send our full support to victims, their families, and first responders. Kansas City, we love you, the Royals." And that just kind of echoes on what we're hearing from organizations and other athletes and organizations around, not just locally, but organizations around the country that are now showing their support. We heard from the Baltimore Ravens, for example, chiming in on that sentiment, saying, Kansas City, we're with you, we're thinking of you. And I thought it was interesting what Neil was talking about when he was right in the middle of that just harrowing, chaotic scene, talking about how other people were reacting, like this. Some guy was pushing our photographer, and then some guy pushed Neil down to the ground. And I think that, people don't know how to act.
Yeah. How do you respond?
When you're confronted with serious, life-threatening trauma, people act differently. Some people run, some people drop to the ground. Apparently, some people start attacking other people.
Some lash out.
But it's that traumatic situation, and the mayor even touched on that. He said, sadly, his wife reminded him, now I'm, one of the numbers, one of the statistics that has been involved in a mass shooting. And when you start to think about it in those terms, it's just so odd, because we all woke up this morning thinking, this is going to be a great day.
This is it.
This is the parades, cities wait for parades. Some cities will never experience a parade.
They won't know what this looks like.
This is the 4th parade that Kansas City has been through since 2015. And it's amazing. And so all of Kansas City collected themselves and said, this is our day. This is our day to celebrate, to feel good about ourselves, to puff our chest out and say, we're Chiefs Kingdom. And now all of a sudden, nobody's talking about football. Right. Nobody's talking about a three-peat tonight. Nobody's talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, although we're with them in spirit, and they have been tweeting out and talking with people about how they're thinking about people. Right now, everyone in Kansas City and the surrounding areas are focused on the family of the deceased and the families and the people who are right now fighting for their lives. Sadly, so many of them kids at Children's Mercy Hospital.
Yeah, that's why we really desperately want to hear from them directly as to their condition and how they're doing tonight. You said it so well. Here we are, fighting for the world championship title and the big trophy to come or stay here in Kansas City in this case. And all of a sudden, none of that matters. And we're hearing from teams that we were, facing off against. Our direct opponents are even reaching out now to the city saying, you know what, a game is a game. A sport is a sport. We do that in good fun. It should never end in this. It never.
No.
It's senseless and sad.
And yet it did. And Kansas City is reacting, and those families of the affected are heartbroken tonight and are outside those hospitals with fingers crossed and I'm sure deep in prayer. All right, our Mark Palos continues our reporting live on the ground. So let's get out to Mark right now. Mark?
Hey, Brad. Yeah, as night begins to fall here in Kansas City, the scene remains very somber outside of Union Station. I'm going to take a step out of frame so you can see exactly what is going on here, but it does appear some of the things that were scheduled to happen here today are now happening. That is the breakdown of the championship stage where our Kansas City Chiefs, as well as Mayor Quentin Lucas and the governor of Missouri, were just hours ago in a coronation of a team's championship here in Kansas City. Again, there are still people in this area that have not quite left that are coming out, just taking a look at the site. Again, Union Station is a gathering place in Kansas City that we all go to. It's a place where many children go for field trips, thinking myself, coming here as a child, going to Science City, coming here as a child, seeing some of these other exhibits. And now I'd have to think that some of these schools will have to rethink about coming out to a scene like this. Now, witnesses have been telling us all day long that this is something that they were surprised to see. I'm standing in front of the Westin Crown Center where a bunch of people who came to this parade from out of town decided to stay as it is so close to Union Station. We caught up with a man who visited from Iowa, and he said there are way too many people down here.
It was packed way too tight around here. They had a fence up, as you can see, and the cops did their best. Security did their best, trying to keep the fence up to keep it separated, because that was only supposed to be for the Weston members. And pretty soon, it was a losing battle. They were fighting a losing battle, and pretty soon they came through and said they're going to take the fence down. Might want to get back because we don't know what they're going to do. They were getting a little rowdy, and I hate that for KC. This is not what we're about. And they started. They were jumping the fence, everything, and the cops and security worked very hard. And after they said it's going to get rowdy and get Western around here, we were like, well, let's stand back. We stood back and we went inside the hotel.
Now, that is a sentiment a lot of people out here have been saying. They would like to commend all the law enforcement. Everyone out here has said law enforcement responded quickly and effectively out here, and they are grateful for that. But one thing that a lot of people who are still in the area are still coming out for to look at is the scene, because what is very rare in life where you get to see a scene where almost 1 million people were literally running for their lives in fear. That's what we're seeing out here today, right next to our camera. I don't think we can get a shot of this, but actually the crosswalk sign that says stop or go has been pulled off of the street pole. That speaks to the urgency of the situation, the craziness of the situation as people were running here earlier today. But right now, again, the scene is still cleaning up as things are a little bit, as the scene is clear and some of those scheduled things taking on the stage is beginning to occur. Again, we're still following this developing story, but for now, we're going to pass it back to Brad and Carolyn, who are in the studio.
All right, Mark, thank you. We continue to wait for an update. Was that from Children's Mercy that we're waiting to hear from?
Children's Mercies, who we're waiting to hear from. At last check, we understood 9 children, 9 minors at least, were being treated there. 4 gunshot wounds, mind you. So, you know, we saw groups of big kids together. Neil Jones talked to several of them, all excited to see their favorite player on stage. And so, you know, our fear is not only do we have these 9 kids who have potentially suffered gunshot wounds, but have seen friends. You know, there's numerous friends likely around, siblings around that have seen something that they should never see in a lifetime.
Yeah, a lot of people tonight, you know, as Mark said, you know, it's day turning to night right now. It's 6:30 in Kansas City right now. A lot of people just trying to figure out how to deal with this.
Yeah, how do you process it?
It's just such an odd feeling, the highs and lows that we've gone through today. And I say I mean we collectively as a city to see this, because I think the person that Mark spoke to, he said, you know, I hate this for Kansas City. And I think that's what all of Kansas City is feeling tonight.
Yeah, I said, it goes, well, I said, well said when he
Okay, all right. The Children's Mercy is having its news conference right now. Let's listen in.
Sure. The challenges of a situation like this, of course, you can imagine. But while we're also treating kiddos that weren't at the parade today for other situations, illness, surgery, things like that, some of that needs to be reprioritized, which we did well according to our mass casualty and incident command situation and plan. We had to pause some of the surgeries that we would have done normally if this wouldn't have occurred, and we had to mobilize resources to take care of the families and the patients that presented to our emergency department.
You said 9 of the 12 had gunshot wounds. Can you describe the injuries of the other victims?
They were incidental injuries is all I can say.
And the ages 6 through 15, those were the total patients or the ones that were shot?
The ages of the pediatric patients we treated were 6 to 15.
How were the children that you saw? What was their, you know, I guess disposition like after going through something?
Fear. The one word I would just use to describe what we saw and how they felt when they came to us was fear.
Of the children who were shot, how many of them suffered serious and critical injuries?
All of them will recover, and I wouldn't say that any of them are critical at this point.
Had they been at any point when they arrived at the hospital in a state like that?
We quickly stabilized them, so I would say no, not in that necessary capacity.
What's it been like for your staff today, having to deal with this? Kids going to a parade, seeing their favorite player, their favorite team, and having to deal with gunfire violence.
You know, I think that it's something that unfortunately we all have to prepare for. Why I said this earlier, the staff did an amazing job, but we will have to do some wellness initiatives and recovery with our staff. This is nothing that you ever want to have happen, and you especially don't want it to happen in a situation where it is a mass casualty type of situation. You don't know how many you're going to get, what the response is going to be from trying to reunite people who might have gotten separated. And so while our staff all went into action, they have a lot of questions and need some help too. I do appreciate the outpouring of support that we've had from all of you and from the community to to ask about our staff and to check in on what you can do to help us. That will be important. And I think it's important that we remember all healthcare staff in the community right now, as well as law enforcement and everybody else that responded to an extremely unfortunate circumstance today. And while they all may be trained to do it, it doesn't make it easier for them in the moment.
How long do you anticipate the children will be here? When do you think that all of the children will be here?
I don't know that yet.
The Chiefs players consoling some of these children. We know they were consoling some children today. These kids.
I can't specifically speak to that and which ones that they talk to or not. Of course, our goal is to bring them and stabilize them, make sure they're getting the care they need, and I'm sure we'll hear stories after that.
All right, you guys.
Thank you guys for your time.
I will tell you that the Chiefs
Got it.
have been incredibly supportive. They want to support us and the kids in the community and our staff. So thank you guys.
All right, you've just been listening to a news conference with Children's Mercy Hospital. So, you know, as they were discussing this, it's odd. We know this was a mass casualty event, but it's still odd to hear them use those terms. A mass casualty event. 9 of the 12 of their patients are gunshot victims. Their ages range anywhere from 6 years old to 15 years old. And then someone asked her how the kids were doing, and she used the word fearful. They've been through a traumatic event and they're fearful. They've just been shot at a championship parade. So you can understand their fear and their feelings of, well, I don't know what they're feeling. I don't even want to go there. But again, most of our viewers and everyone that I'm hearing from on social media, and that's what everyone is thinking about, those kids and their families, and of course, the one person who was shot and killed in this horrific event today.
It did sound as if they had the 9 kids, minors between ages 6 and 15 who had been taken there to Children's Mercy. It sounds like there were maybe 3 additional others with more just incidental injuries.
Sure.
We have Grace Smith there on the scene. We're going to go to her in a moment. She is going to kind of narrow all of that down for us and really pinpoint the numbers as we continue to monitor each of the hospitals here in the metro. But now we want to go to Gianni Navarro. She is near the scene there on at Union Station there, and you weren't too far away actually when it happened, right, Gianni?
Yeah, Carolyn, I was just down the street when it happened. You know, it was kind of a blur. We were very confused as to what was going on. I was on Grand Boulevard covering the parade, which honestly seems like 2 separate days. This does not feel like it has been one whole day. It was happiness and joy, and now it's just tragedy and sadness, and it's just terrible. We were at the apartment, and we just saw a bunch of law enforcement driving so fast down the street, and we kind of thought for a second that does not feel normal, and then all of a sudden we started seeing them running out of their cars, and at that moment we knew something terrible must have happened. When we got to the scene, we saw people evacuating, and I was able to catch up with some families along the way, asking them what they experienced, what they heard, what they felt. I was able to talk to one family and a little boy, and it really truly broke my heart, because he said he was terrified and he was crying. And he said that he was having so much fun and now he was scared. And just to hear that is terrible. And as an adult, it was terrifying. So I can't even imagine what it felt like for a child. But just numerous people we spoke to today, just talking about how scared they were and how mad they were that a day of happiness and joy turned into this. But I'm going to go ahead and let you guys listen to what someone else had to say today.
We seriously have an angel. The fact that we were going down, he forgot his phone. We found his phone from a stranger, and then we were back on the way. We were not down there, but we were on the way back, and
maybe 200
then it
feet
happened.
away.
So many families affected by this today, and it just really saddens me. You know, like I said, it just seems like 2 separate days. We were having so much fun. I was reporting earlier today on the parade, watching everyone with big old smiles and cheering, and it just breaks my heart that this is how the day ended, you guys.
It's just not right. It shouldn't happen this way. It definitely shouldn't end this way for a successful season. Gianni, thank you. We were talking about the numbers and the news conference we just heard from Children's Mercy. Let's go to our Grace Smith now. She's been helping us monitor kind of each and every one of these hospitals where patients were taken. I do think there's 4 hospitals now we're trying to keep track of in the midst of this. Of course, a big concern are the kids involved.
Right.
Grace, let's go back to you now. What are you hearing now about these numbers at Children's Mercy and how they break it down?
Yeah, Carolyn, here at Children's Mercy, they just told us that they received 12 total patients, 11 children, and 9 of those children were shot. Their ages were 6 to 15 years old. However, thankfully, they do say they plan on all having a full recovery. That is some good news in this horrible news. And they do say, though, that the total word of today is fear. When the children came in, just fear for the doctors, for everyone involved. So you can just imagine those 9 children coming in with gunshot wounds, how just horrible and disheartening that was, as they mentioned here. And they do say that the chiefs have been reaching out to them, saying, you know, if there's any way they can help, please let them know. But 9 total children were shot and taken here, but thankfully they do plan on all recovering. Back to you guys.
Grace, that's the best news we've heard in the last couple of hours. So that's as much as anybody could ask for, was that those kids are going to pull through. We hope everyone who was hurt in this wicked melee recovers. So Grace, thank you for your reporting. We also want to go straight back out, back to the scene there where Betsy Webster has been reporting all afternoon. Betsy, some good news, at least from Children's Mercy, in that they're saying that all of those kids who are being treated for their gunshot wounds, it looks like all of those kids are going to make a full recovery.
At least physically, they'll recover.
Physically, yeah.
Emotionally, it's going to be a while.
A big few, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, someone I just ran into down here, Scott Lemaster, he's the founder of a nonprofit called Taking It to the Streets. He started this organization about 20 years ago. They bring what looks like an ambulance, but it's actually stocked with food and water, and it's for emergency responders who are going to be stuck somewhere for a while. Now, they were here earlier today for a good reason. I'm going to chat with him for just a little bit. Scott, you weren't here because of a disaster. You were here doing what?
Yeah, we got here early this morning to feed out 1,000 first responders for breakfast, and then we did 1,000 meals for lunch today, taking care of all the support staff on the parade route, making sure they were well fed today.
And then things took a change.
Yep, and then I got a call, said come back, so here we are.
Now, we were talking about what we're seeing behind us, and guys, I just want to point out, you know, I've been up here before when they're breaking down the stage, and things always look kind of like, you know, a little bit ragged after a parade with trash and confetti, but it's a different vibe now. You and I were talking about how it feels being out here.
Yeah, it's almost like you're in a tornado zone, you know, when we're in a natural disaster or something. You see all the barricades laying down where people just tried to get away, and the barricades are on the ground, knocked over, and just kind of a tragic event here.
You were describing it to me just a minute ago as surreal.
Yeah, it is pretty surreal. You know, usually here on an event like this where everybody's so joyful and happy, now it's just kind of like, wow, really, Kansas City, this happened here? So it's kind of a sad evening for Kansas City, but we have such a great police force. Chief Graves, she's awesome, and I know Kansas City PD is, you know, grieving as well as most of the citizens of Kansas City over this event that happened today here.
You know, Brad Stevens, one of our anchors, asked me earlier, I've been doing this for 24 years, he said, have you ever been anywhere with 24 shooting victims? You've been to tornadoes, all these natural disasters. What does this feel like?
Yeah, it's totally different. You know, we're just loving and supporting our first responders because, you know, an average first responder in a 20-year period of time sees about 800 critical incidents, such as one of these, where an average citizen will only see 1 or 2. And so you can just imagine the impact emotionally that it has on our first responders having to deal with the situation that they were faced with today.
And you know, just now I think they were taking something down on the stage and it made that popping noise. Did
Yeah.
you jump like I did?
No, I didn't jump at all. But yeah, it was. You can hear the popping all over the place. You know, their bottles are breaking and stuff that are here on the street still. But yeah, it's kind of a surreal place down here.
All right. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to us, and thank you for the work that you do.
Oh, well, thank you. We just love supporting our first responders, and that's why we're here.
Thank you.
You bet.
You know, his brother was a first responder with the Topeka Fire Department, died in the line of duty, and that's part of what inspired him to do this. But I'll tell you guys, I may be just a little bit less composed than Scott is. I heard that quick pop, and there was just a little something in the back of my head that just kind of jumped. Obviously, we're going to continue to hear those noises out here tonight as they're breaking down that stage and pulling things apart. And it's not even something that would normally make me hesitate. It's just in light of all that happened. But again, police department says that there is no threat out here at this time. We are still seeing some people roaming around, some of them just sort of staring over there, kind of bewildered.
Yeah, Betsy, I heard that sound too. I reacted the very same way you did, even back here. When I heard that, I jumped as well. So I feel you, and I appreciate so much you introducing us to him and the efforts they make to feed
all the work
these
that he does.
First responders that goes unsung. It's amazing and so needed. They didn't expect to need it tonight, but he's there with more help. That's just awesome.
They called him back.
Yeah, that's
all
great.
Right, Betsy, thank you. We appreciate your reporting. Stay with us. Just wanted to get out to another tweet on X. You know, there are rivals on the field, but off the field, you know what? Maybe not so much. This is from the Las Vegas Raiders, who say the Las Vegas Raiders' thoughts are with the Kansas City Chiefs and their fans. Following the senseless violence at today's parade, we extend our deepest condolences to all those affected by this tragedy. That was tweeted out just moments ago by the Las Vegas Raiders.
Of course, the team just now returning from Las Vegas there.
Right,
Raiders Nation is where we were for all the fun and all the excitement, everything we should have been able to fully celebrate today.
Seems like a month and a half ago now, doesn't it? I mean, it's as Betsy said, it's surreal down there at Union Station, and I think, and I'm hearing people, I know people are texting you and reaching out to you, but everyone is saying, what is happening? What is going on? What in the world?
Why?
Why? Yeah, so many unanswered questions. We want to get right back out to the reporting in the field. Our Zach Summers and Sharon Chin have been out reporting since the wee hours of the morning, and we return to Zach and Sharon now. Guys?
Hey, Brad and Carolyn, you know, listening to the man that Betsy had interviewed, Scott, you know, Zach and I were talking about that very thing, which is, you know, all the coverage that we've had today, we listened to the witness accounts, we listened to the response and all those things. We've heard from other cities. We've covered it from other cities. But to hear that it's Kansas City is just so strange. And it is truly heartbreaking. You think, oh my gosh, not my city. Ever. You never want it to be your city. But, you know, here we are in this situation. And I have to say, since we've been in this area closer to Union Station, as people walk by, don't you feel there's like a feeling of heaviness? People don't want to look you in the eye, and the ones that do don't smile. And there's people with tears in their eyes. You can see it, and ones that are wiping tears away. I mean, it's just a heartbreaking, there's no other word to explain it.
Well, partly because you don't think it will happen at home. You know, I've been in the business for for more than a decade, and I've worked in other cities. I've covered mass shootings, and they're never easy to cover, but there's something about this one. You know, I consider Kansas City home. It just feels so personal, and to have been, you know, I know we were at a distance, but we were right there. We looked right at it, and you know, as we were, our last live shot, right after that live shot, someone who I had recently met, she texted me saying, thankful that you're okay, but then she went on to say that it's such a scary day. My cousin was shot along with her boyfriend and child. So 3 people in one family affected by this shooting. And you know, I just met this woman, and a sweet woman, and fortunately she tells me that they're going to be okay. They're still at the hospital right now. But it just goes to show, you know, Brad mentioned it earlier about the number of people affected by this shooting. And when you think of the number, 1 dead, 22 injured. I mean, this is a small knit community, even though we're a big city, and this is just one story and one woman who I recently met. And this is 3 people in her family. So, I mean, these are the stories we're going to hear over the next several days.
Over the next several days. And I mean, even just processing this. I mean, as we were up at the top there, when we were wondering what was going on, and we learned that it was a shooting, an actual shooting that happened. I don't know about you, but I mean, all of a sudden, my whole body just went cold because it's so hard to process that, oh my gosh, this is happening. How many times have we been at a scene where we thought it was an active shooter situation and it turned out to be a false alarm? This was reality. And now here we are. This is reality. And it is so sad because this was a joyous occasion. This was a family day. People were celebrating. We were celebrating our Chiefs with their back-to-back championship. And this is not how we wanted to end this chapter.
Yeah, let's hear from a witness to the shooting.
The whole time we've been walking from Union Station to up here, which is what, 2 or 3 blocks, like we've been trying to figure out if something was actually happening or if like it was just the crowd leaving and people, you know, rushing or whatever. It does suck, and yeah, my views on things like that are probably not going to be a lot popular with a lot of people, but I think there's a lot of idiots with guns in this state that apparently have no business having one, and it sucks that everybody else can't come out and enjoy something like this without worried about somebody popping off shots. So, you know, it'd be nice if that would change.
Yeah, and that's true. It's very sad because, like we said, this was a family occasion that people were bringing their families. The kids had the day off school. They were going to come out and enjoy and celebrate their team. And now this is, you know, this is not the memory that they have, but unfortunately, this is what's marred in their head. And
yeah, I was going to say, you think about it. We've done this 3 times, and every one of those times there was a little hiccup, if you will. In 2020, you had the wrong way car driver. Last year, everybody talks about how cold it was. Today, we had beautiful weather and a beautiful celebration, and now it will be remembered by this shooting.
Yeah, which is just, it's a tragedy. It truly is a tragedy. Brad and Carolyn, we'll send it back to you.
Just senseless. It's the only word that keeps coming to mind. It just is senseless. Zach, Sharon, thank you so much for your reporting all day long, literally from sun up to sundown. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and as we've mentioned, we have so many crews who've been working really hard all day, well, throughout the night to cover the parade, and then throughout the morning covering the parade, and then since 2 o'clock, unfortunately, covering this shooting that happened. Our Mark Palos is on the ground there. Mark, what's the latest?
Yeah, Brad, we're here just a couple of minutes before the top of the hour, and the scene is beginning to get a little bit more like normal. We'll take a step out of frame. As you can see, this barricade here that was right behind us has been moved a little bit further out into the street. Now, I asked police if that was because the scene is getting a little smaller. They said no, that's because they would like to have traffic flow here coming through this area. Now, a few moments ago, I actually talked to a man who was waiting here because his tent where he was waiting for the parade is still inside the barricade. He was waiting because police were not allowing him to go in, and he went inside to go retrieve his possessions, including a knit Chiefs blanket that was knit by his grandmother, I believe, and he said that was stolen. So in addition to seeing obviously the injuries and the loss of life that has happened out here today, we have now seen another dark side of Kansas City. A man here with his possessions has now been looted, and part of the chaos as we're still continuing to see all the negative things that have happened here on this Valentine's Day, which is supposed to be marked by a championship parade. But again, here as we're beginning to see the street here at Main and Pershing is now open. As you just saw, there was a blue car that drove through there. So the scene here is beginning to return a little bit to normal as police are trying to open up a little bit of this area as it is very busy here in Kansas City. Now, if people are going to drive through this area, I would ask that you do so with caution. There is a lot of glass on the ground, a lot of bottles. When you've been driving over your cars, they've been popping, exploding, creating more debris, more danger here at Union Station. So if you are going to come through here with your car, please be careful. You are not going to want to get in a flat tire. Now, we've been talking to witnesses out here all day. Here's what another one had to say about what happened out here today.
I mean, today was a great day. It was an awesome day. And I'm so tired of guns, people. I'm just tired of them. I'm tired of people not having the courage to say, I don't need this. I don't need this stuff. I don't need them to protect me. We had 800 cops out here today, 800 guns. And we think that that's going to protect us from all of the guns that we put out throughout our society. It's just not going to happen. And I'm just so sad about this. And you know what? I'm just glad to hear, I guess all the team is okay and stuff. And I'm just so sad to hear of the people that have been directly affected by this, and the families. And this affects so many people. When's it going to stop? I'm just like, when's it going to stop?
Certainly a very sad day here in Kansas City as the scene continues to develop. We still have some families that are out here trying to survey the scene as it is, a very beloved location here in Kansas City with a very different look here tonight, Carolyn.
Oh, that is for sure. Mark, I know the plan obviously was to open all of those roads back up by, I don't know, 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. Can you explain once again, like what roads are still blocked off and what they are opening back up?
So I've been down in this area since about maybe 3:30, 4 p.m. We were trying to go to about 27th and McGee, but we were really impeded by traffic at that point. So we actually parked maybe about 32nd in McGee, 32nd in Gillum, and walked all the way here. Now, as for the road closures, this road behind me was closed until literally about 3 minutes ago. So this is the first road opening that we have seen since we've been out here. Now, on the other side at Pershing and Kessler, on the other way, it does look like that area is still closed off. Now, we have seen some people that lived actually in this building. They previously were not able to traverse the area from Maine over to Kessler, but that area has been opened up a little bit as police have moved some of their lines so that some of those folks can get back into their homes. But right here, this roadway where we see this car going right now, this is the very first time that this road has been open all evening since I've been out here. So obviously today, nothing about today has been normal, but they are trying to get this area back open and in use for the public at large.
All right. Obviously not recommended, I'm sure, to go through there. There seems to be a lot of debris, as you mentioned there, Mark. But I just wanted to know, for those who do live around that area, it is good to know tonight. Mark, thank you.
Yeah, and what Mark said was so poignant. Nothing about today is normal. There's just absolutely nothing normal about this day. We've been at this now. It's 7 o'clock. It was 5 hours ago that the shooting happened, right just a minute or two before 2 o'clock. And the word that I keep hearing a lot of people use is surreal. It doesn't seem real, even though it's all too real, and it's painfully real as we continue to find out more about these young victims. The one, sadly, the one victim who's dead, who died, how that changes that person's family forever. These kids are going to grow up who were shot and will always have a painful memory of this day that started out with such joy and triumph and surreal. They're just, I don't know, I keep listening and trying to find words that don't make any sense to this, because none of this makes sense, but it's just such a strange day. From one high to such another low. I don't know that I've ever experienced anything like this.
Dramatic emotional swings, for sure. Absolutely. And you think about, what we were just coming off of course, celebrating in such grand style. We are just now getting a tweet in from the NFL. They have released a statement via Twitter, via X, saying, "We are deeply saddened by the senseless shooting that occurred today near the end of the rally in Kansas City for the Chiefs. Our thoughts are with the victims and everyone affected. We are grateful for the quick and thorough response of law enforcement and emergency personnel." That is one sentiment that has been repeated again and again and again. The only silver lining is that we did have so much law enforcement on hand in the area, ready to tackle the situation if it happened sadly, it did happen, and they were able to jump into action just as quickly as we could ever ask them to.
Yeah, and that's what will come out in the days and weeks as we learn more about this investigation, is just exactly what happened as that melee was happening, as all those shots were being fired, and as bodies were dropping. It'll be really interesting to find out exactly what those first responders did. Who knows, there may have been some heroic actions that saved the lives of countless others. We don't know, but those are the questions that we'll continue to ask, and our reporters will continue to dig into figuring out exactly what happened here. The why may be immaterial. The fact of the matter is it did happen. There's been a horribly senseless tragedy that happened on our doorstep, on our moment to shine, on our moment when we were saying to the world, look at us.
Yeah, truly under the global
Kansas City.
spotlight.
We have reached the pinnacle of football success, and we can't wait to share it with you all. And it has been truly an incredible day that we have witnessed, and now all we can do, like the rest of you all watching tonight, all we can do is, once we go off the air, say a prayer for those involved and for all those families who are wondering and waiting about the health of those who have been hurt.
It is something that we here at KCTV 5 will continue to monitor for the next several hours. You can stay with us online. We're going to leave you here at 7 o'clock, but stay with us online in every way, and we will be back tonight at 10 with the very latest on the conditions of these poor victims here today.
We thank you for watching, and now we send you back to regularly scheduled programming.
painting night. No video games, we'll just do some airbrush painting.
Okay. Oh, probably.
Yeah.
Well, it was the lead story on CBS tonight.
Yeah, I saw that.
And they voice it in the live tag. That's why I didn't borrow your phone. All of our phones, both of my phones died at the same time.
Oh my god.
You want me to charge it?
No, it's fine now.
Oh.
It's one's charging and the other one is charging. But I was using one to communicate and one for my IFB, and they both went down right before we were going to go on CBS.
Jeez.
Perfect timing.
Well, but and same with drags. I mean, we've been out since 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah. Oh, right, Noah. You guys are here. Thank you, but how are we gonna get home?
How we get home?
Well, I know that you can get a ride on the back of the motorcycle.
Yeah, okay.
Tran, however, might be a little different. Tran
Well,
may be taking public transportation.
Well, I did ride a moped in Vietnam, and everyone was staring at me because I was a fat kid.
Did you serve in Vietnam?
No.
Did you serve me?
Oh my gosh, thank you for your service. Of course we lost, right?
Yeah, we did. Damn communism. Damn socialists.